Morning friends, today we are going to continue the same lecture which we have left half done last time, that is muscles of back. Let us first revise what we have seen till now. Part 1 we have seen first of all what is back and skin of the back, then some important things about the cutaneous innervation, that is from C2 to C5, T2 to L3 and S2 to S4 and COX1. Then facial layers, especially the thoracolumbar fascia. We have seen its division and its components in the neck region, thoracic region, lumbar region, sacral region, and then some important clinical points like erector spinae compartment syndrome. Then we have talked about muscles, their layering, that is first superficial one, then middle one, intermediate, that is extensive muscles group, then the intrinsic muscles group. Then again they were divided into three parts: more superficial, deeper, and deepest. Then we have discussed the diagram. And we have talked about ligamentum nuchae and its extent, especially from the EOP, that is external occipital protuberance, to tip of C7. Then we have talked about superficial group of back muscles. They were also called as appendicular muscle because one of the ends is attached to the pectoral girdle. Then we have discussed this table in detail: trapezius, latissimus dorsi, levator scapulae, and rhomboid group and their action. Now we are going to start the part 2. In this particular part, we are going to talk about the intermediate layer and the deepest layer. So first of all, the intermediate layer. Intermediate layer consists of very two thin muscular sheath which are present in the superior and inferior region of the back, immediately deep to the muscles of the superficial groups. There are two: serratus posterior superior, serratus posterior inferior, and they pass obliquely from vertebral column to attach to the ribs. As they are placed like this obliquely and attached to the ribs, they are having some respiratory function, and that's why also referred as respiratory group of back muscles. Serratus posterior superior is deep to rhomboid muscles, whereas serratus posterior inferior is deep to latissimus dorsi muscle. So you can see their origin insertion. The superior one originates from lower portion of ligamentum nuchae, spinous process of C7 to T3, and supraspinous ligament. It is going to insert into upper border of rib second to fifth, just lateral to their angles. Innervation is from anterior rami of upper thoracic nerve, innervation anterior ventral, last time we have discussed, and the function is to elevate the rib second to fifth. Likewise, the serratus posterior inferior, you can see the origins from spinous process of T11 to L3 and supraspinous ligament. Inserted on the lower border of rib 9 to 12. Nerve supplies anterior rami of lower thoracic nerve from T9 to T12 and it depresses the rib 9 to 12. So these are some important points for serratus posterior superior and serratus posterior inferior. You can see the diagram. This is for the superior one. See the arrangement. So whenever they are going to contact, they are going to elevate the rib. And here, whenever they are going to contact, they are going to depress the rib. So this is the presentation of superior, serratus superior, posterior, and serratus posterior inferior. Now comes the most important group, deep group of back muscles. This is also known as intrinsic group of muscles, extend from pelvis to skull and innervated by segmental branches of posterior rami. Then again we have seen that they are divided again. The extensor and rotators of head and neck, known as splenius, capitis and cervicis. The group is known as spinotransversalis muscle. Then the second group is the extensor rotators of vertebral column, that is erector spinae and transversospinalis. That's erector spinalis, true muscles of back. Then comes the short segmental muscle, the interspinalis and intertransversalis. So these are the further three groups which we are going to learn in this particular lecture. The vascular supply of this group is through the vertebral, deep cervical, occipital, transverse cervical, posterior intercostal arteries. Means whichever is nearer, it is going to give the supply to that particular group muscle. First of all, that is spinotransversalis group. They are two in number and they run upward side. The splenius capitis, splenius cervicis. Capitis, whenever we see the term capitis, remember this is going to get inserted on the skull. Cervicis, they are going to insert it on the spine of neck. See the first one, splenius capitis. It's originate from lower half of ligamentum nuclei. Remember, ligamentum nuclei is from EOP to C7, spinous process. Then spinous process of C7 to T4. It is going to insert it on mastoid process. Here, you can see it just behind your ear. Then skull below, lateral one third of superior knuckle line on the knuckle line on the base side. Then the innervation is from posterior rami, middle cervical nerves. Together, if both side muscles are going to act together, they draw the back backwards, extending the neck like this. Individually draw and rotate the head to one side, like this. Then splenius cervicis, they start from the spinous process of T3 to T6, get inserted on the transverse processes of C1 to C3. Remember, these are transverse process. Transverse process means like this. These ones are the transverse process. This is spinous process, and this is the anatomical position. This is anterior side. This is posterior side. Transverse process, spinous process. Innervation is posterior rami of cervical nerves only. Together of the both the side, again the action is same. Extend the nerve, and individually they rotate the head to one of the side. These are first group, spinotransversalis group, and remember these are specifically present in the upper part only, that is behind the neck region. See the diagram, you can see this is the origin of the spinous process, and it is going upward. Insertion point, this is splenius cervicis. Then splenius capitis, you can see it is attaching on the superior knuckle line, and some part is going towards the mastoid also. Then comes erector spinae muscle, which is the largest group of intrusive back muscles. The muscles lie posterolaterally to the pectoral column between the spinous process medially and angle to the ribs laterally. They are covered in the thoracic and lumbar region by thoracolumbar fascia, as the name suggests, in the serratus posterior, inferior, rhomboid, and splenius muscles. It divides in upper lumbar region into three vertebral columns of muscle, each of which is further subdivided into lumborum, thoracic, cervicis, and capitis regionally. So, to understand it, we have to first understand that these are the big group of muscles. As the name of the region is there, we are going to suffix that particular thing with the name of muscle. Like the muscle is one, so one lumborum, one thoracic, one thoracic. Now we are going to see the names. So you can see this particular diagram. The erector spinae are actually three: ILS, iliocostalis, longissimus, and spinalis. These are the three names. Then, as they could move in the particular region, like we are going to take the example of longissimus. So see here, if it is present in thoracic region, it will be known as longissimus thoracic. If it is present in cervical region, it will be known as longissimus cervicis. If it is present in capitis point, it will be known as capitis, or going to be attached on the capitis. So the muscle is same, the length is same. You can see big muscles are there, but as the region is there, they are again divided, and that particular region name is suffixed with the name of erector spinae group. Then again we have to understand one thing, that spinalis is most medial one, then longissimus is lateral to that, and iliocostalis is most lateral to that. So if we are following the vertical column, spinalis means spine. You can simply know spinalis means spine. So which are lying in the line of spine, they will be known as spinalis. Then lateral to them it will be longissimus, and then more lateral to them it will be iliocostalis. Iliocostalis itself is giving you everything. Ilio means ilium, costalis means ribs. Then one more thing to be remembered here is that every muscle is not going to have a particular regional division. So we have to understand, though there are three groups, but everywhere we are not going to find the capitis especially. So whatever we have discussed, it's written here. The outer or most lateral placed column of the erector spinae muscle is iliocostalis. The medial or intermediate is longissimus, which is the largest of erector spinae subdivision, extending from common origin to base of the skull. This is the longest one, or largest one also. The most medial muscle column is spinalis, which is smallest of subdivision and interconnects the spinous process of adjacent vertebrae. The spinalis is most constant in thoracic region and generally absent in cervical region. So this is the chart which we have to learn. You can see each of the muscle is basically divided into three compartments. The first we are going to talk about iliocostalis. The first part is lumborum, second part is thoracic, third part is cervicis. Means there is no capitis. The origin of lumborum is sacrum, spinous process of lumbar and lower two thoracic vertebrae, the supraspinous ligament, and it's going to get inserted into the Costals. Costals means ribs. Angle of lower 6 or 7 rib, process of C7. Then comes the iliocostalis thoracis. It starts from angles of lower 6 ribs, goes to the upper 6 ribs and transverse processes. Iliocostalis cervicis start from the ribs 3rd to 6th, goes to the transverse process of C4 to C6. So this is what known as iliocostalic group, having lumborum, thoracic and cervicis compartment. Then comes the longismus. It has three parts: thoracis, cervicis and capitis. So thoracic, you are going to see it blends with iliocostalic in lumbar region and is attached to the transverse process of lumbar vertebrae. It will get inserted to transverse process of all thoracic vertebrae just lateral to the tubercles of lower 9 or 10 ribs. Longismus cervicis starts from transverse process of upper 4 or 5 thoracic vertebrae in T1, T2, T4 or T5 and gets inserted into the transverse process of C2 to C6. Longismus capitis starts from transverse process of upper 4 or 5 thoracic vertebrae and articular process of lower 3 to 4 cervical. So here the articular process of lower 3 to 4 cervical vertebrae is also included, means C5, C6, C7, sometimes C4 also. It goes to the attached to the, now the name is capitis, it has to get attached on the skull, the posterior margin of the mastoid process. So this is longismus group. Then comes the spinalis group. It also has three parts: spinalis thoracis, cervicis, and capitis. Thoracis start from spinous process of T10 to T11 to L2, gets inserted in the spinous process of T1 to T8. Sometimes variations are there. Spinalis cervicis, lower part of ligamentum nuclei. It is going to start from lower part of ligamentum nuclei. Then comes spinalis cervicis. It's going to the lower part of ligamentum nuclei and spinous process of C7 to spinous process of C2, that is axis. Spinous capitis usually blends with semi-spinalis capitis, which we are going to see in next slides, and it's going to insert it there only. So this is the total diagram. You can see again electrospinal group, that is spinalis group. This is longismus group. This is iliocostalis group. Then three compartments for each particular thing. This is the origin. You can see some part of ilium and sacrum is also included here, and vertically that from it is going to be originated from ribs also. So region wise it is going to be divided again and again, but in totality it is one muscle which can be easily correlated in Ayurveda, that in Paribhasa Sharir chapter some things are given known as Mas Rajju, which are given Prashtobhyat, Nibandhanat Pesiyar. It means on the both the sides of Prashtobhyat vertebral column and they are tying up the small muscles and grooves present. So it can be correlated, but right now you should understand this is the erector spinae group. So muscles in erector spinae are also known as primary extensors of vertebral column and head. So when you are going down, you are touching your feet and you want to come back in the straight posture. These are the actual muscles which are going to help you. Acting bilaterally, they strengthen the back, returning it into the upright position from the flexed position and pull the head posteriorly. They also participate in controlling vertebral column flexion by contracting and relaxing in coordinated manner. Acting unilaterally, they bend the vertebral column laterally like this side or that side. In addition, unilateral contraction of muscle attached to the head turn the head to the actively contracting side. So these are certain functions. So remember, erector spinae group, true muscles of the back is intrinsic muscle, is the largest group, and it controls or strengthens back the muscles returning into the upright position. Next group is transverso spinalis muscle. These are deep to erector spinae muscles. They again are in three subgroups: semispinalis, multifidus, rotators. Semispinalis are more superficial one. They are found in thoracic and cervical region, attached to the occipital bone at the base. Next, deeper are the multifidus. These are present throughout the length of vertebral column, but best developed in the lumbar region. Then there are small rotators. These are deepest. They are present throughout the length of vertebral column, but best developed in the thoracic region. Remember, semispinalis, multifidus, rotators. You can see in the diagram, these are multifidus, then rotators. Then again you can see these three muscles are again divided into certain subgroups or regional basis. like semispinalis, thoracic, cervicis, and capitis. Cervicis, thoracic start from transverse process of T6 to T10, get inserted into the spinous process upper, four thoracics in lower two, cervical line means C6, C7, T1, T2, T3, and T4. Semispinalis cervices, they arise from transverse process of upper 6 or 5 thoracic vertebrae. They get inserted into the spinous process of axis to C5, and semispinalis capitis from T1 to T6 and C7 gets inserted in the medial area between the superior and inferior knuckle line of occipital. As the name capitis, so it has to go to the skull. So this is first group, semispinalis, more superficial. Next come multifidus. They have variety of origin, sacrum, the common origin of erector spinae, posterior superior iliac spine, primary process of lumbar vertebrae, transverse process of thoracic vertebrae. Means again reason wise. Whatever is the reason from that particular part, you can take it out from here. Like we are talking about thoracic, then it will be the transverse process of thoracic vertebrae. They are going to get inserted in the base of the spinous process of all vertebrae, starting from L5 to C2. This will be very long in a straight line. Next come rotators. They are also in three parts: lumborum, thoracic, cervicis. Lumborum is going to start from memory process of lumbar region, gets inserted into the spinous process of lumbar vertebrae. Rotator thoracis start from thoracic transverse process of thoracic vertebrae, gets inserted in the spinous process of thoracic vertebrae. Cervicis going to articular process cervical vertebrae and spinous process of cervical vertebrae. It means they are going to start from the right sides and they are going to come to the spinous process. So rotators are very small; they help in just rotation of single vertebrae, but they act always in togetherness. So this is the third compartment. Now you can see the diagram. You can see multifidus, then rotators arising from transfer process and going towards the spinous process of each vertebrae. Okay, so this will be the smallest one. Then semispinalis, these are small ones which come from one side to other side only. So this particular group is known as transverse. So spinalis group or semispinalis, multifidus, and rotators. So what they actually do, they extend the vertebral column and the action similar to erector spinae group. It means actually they are accessory muscles to erector spinae group and they does the same function. Only one muscle, that is semispinal capitis, has unique action because it attached to the skull. So it helps in the movement of skull also. Contracting bilaterally, these muscles pull the head posteriorly, while unilaterally pulls the muscle head posteriorly and turns it, causing seam to move superiorly and turn towards the side of contracting muscles, something like this. Next comes segmental muscles. So these are two group muscles present. First group is levator's costrum. Again, the costrum came, it means the attachment will be on the ribs, which arises from transverse process of vertebrae C7 to T11. They have oblique lateral downward direction and inserts into the rib below the vertebrae. It means if it has arises from C7, it will attach to the rib number 1. If it is arise from T1, it will attach to the rib number 2. T11, the on rib number 12. Their contraction helps in elevation of ribs. The second group is having two muscles which are very small, interspinalis, between one spine to other, interspinal. So this is one spine, above to it there will be one more vertebrae, so spine to spine. This will be interspinalis, which pass between the adjacent spinous process. And then there is intertransversalis. So these are the transverse process which cross to next transverse process. So like this, they will form a ladder-like appearance. So this posterior muscle stabilizes adjoining vertebrae during the movement of vertebral column, allow more effective action of large muscle. So all the small muscles are actually acting in favor of the erector spinae groups only. You can see this chart. We have already talked in detail on the previous slides, so you can go through it. That levator costula origin is from C7 to T11. Insertion is the rib below the vertebral, origin near to tubercle, as in contraction. Then there are interspinalis and intertransversalis. You can see the diagram. Levator costalis, one of them going to attach to the lateral angle of the rib, the lower one. Then intertransversalis, from one transverse process to other transverse process, and then interspinalis will be directly on the one spine to other spine, one spine to other spine. So this will be the segmental muscle. Then comes group of muscle which is actually present in the suboccipital region, that is behind the neck and in the border of head. So this also is included in the back muscles because it is the continuation thing only. So there is a small group of deep muscles in upper cervical region at the base of occipital bone. They connect C1 to C2 and both connect to the vertebrae at the base of skull. Because of their location, they are sometimes referred to suboccipital muscles. Actually, they are two, but each one is paired with a smaller one, like rectus capitis posterior major and minor, obliquus capitis superior and inferior. You can see the diagram. This is the obliquus superior, this is the obliquus inferior on the both the sides. Then rectus capitis posterior major, then this will be rectus capitis posterior minor. This is not marked here, you can understand here. And this particular arrangement gives an triangular space. That particular triangular space is also known as suboccipital triangle, having one of the most important content known as vertebral artery. So in this slide, you can see origin and insertion is given. First of all, rectus capitis posterior major starts from spinous process of C2, inserted on the lateral portion of occipital bone. Innervation is posterior ramus of C1. Innervation is common to all, and function is nearly common only. Extension of head, rotation of face to same side. Rectus capitis minor, it's also start from same thing, that is spinous process of C1, that was C2. Gets inserted in the medial portion of the occipital bone below to the inferior knuckle line. Nerve supply same. Action is extension of head. Obliquus capitis start from transverse process of C1, goes to the occipital bone between the superior and inferior knuckle line. Nerve supply same. Action is extension of head. Obliquus capitis inferior, spinous process of C2, gets inserted into the transverse process of C1, then rotation. This is again, you can see the diagram: rectus capitis major, rectus capitis minor, obliquus inferior, obliquus superior. So this is the total group is known as occipital group muscles. Then comes the occipital triangle. These are the triangle which is actually formed by the occipital muscles. The rectus capitis posterior major forms the medial border. Obliquus capitis superior forms the lateral border. Obliquus capitis inferior forms the inferior border. It means there is no role of rectus capitis posterior minor in this triangle. The contents of area outlined by these muscles are posterior ramus of C1, the most important vertebral artery because it is going to give the supply to the brain from the posterior side, and associated veins. So this particular triangle you can see here, the boundaries you can see, and the content we have already told, it is main content is vertebral artery. So this all detailed thing what we have done in this lecture, we have talked about the deep group of muscles and intermediate group of muscles, then their further divisions. So here the main thing is to understand the theme. Each origin and insertion you can't learn, but you can at least make some mark in your mind that from where to where they are going to attach, especially the group wise. And then the regional division you can make your mind clear that region wise they are again divided. So whatever is near to it, from there only they will get inserted or originated. Nerve supply is not only from posterior ramus only because these are the muscles of back. And then there are some clinical points, especially low back pain, erectile spinae group syndrome, and then there might be some problem in the vertebral column, especially in the suboccipital group. So this is all from this lecture. Hope to meet you soon again. Thank you.